The story of Troy spans thousands of years, with archaeologists uncovering 9 layers of cities beneath the site at Hisar Lake in Turkey. To unravel this epic history, we will explore these layers one by one, beginning with the very first. Troy's earliest chapter begins around 3000 BCE with Troy 1, a modest village fortified on a strategic hill overlooking the Dardanelles. Life here was simple. People worked the fields, raised livestock, and lived in homes of mud brick. Even this early settlement held a promise, thanks to its control of crucial trade routes connecting Asia and Europe. The Dardanelles was a vital corridor for merchants, travelers, and armies, making Troy's position strategically valuable. They built rudimentary defenses, indicating an awareness of the value of their position and the need to protect it. By 2550 BCE, Troy II emerged, transforming this humble village into a bustling hub of commerce. The new city expanded, surrounded by thick stone walls and grand gates, showcasing its growth in both defense and ambition. The stone walls were constructed not only for protection, but also as symbols of the city's growing power. Gold jewelry, bronze tools, and pottery unearthed here point to a community that was flourishing, with skilled artisans and thriving economy. The city's layout became more organized, suggesting more sophisticated social structure. This period saw increased trade, and Troy too became a significant player in the exchange of goods across the region. The wealth accumulated through trade brought prosperity, but it also made Troy a target. Around 2300 BCE, a catastrophic fire brought Troy II to a sudden and violent end, leaving ashes where wealth and grandeur had stood. The cause of the fire remains uncertain, whether from an attack, an accident, or internal conflict, but its impact was unmistakable. Despite the disaster that ended Troy II, the city was not abandoned. Between 2300 and 1750 BCE, Troy III, IV, and V rose from the ashes, each more modest than its predecessor. Gone were the grand fortifications. What remained was smaller, more humble community. These were quieter times, marked not by wealth but by resilience. The people of Troy focused on farming and local trade, adapting to a simpler lives but never fully giving up their city. Sure, they didn't have the grandeur of the old Troy, but they stuck it out and made it through tough times. The evidence from this period points to smaller homes, less elaborate pottery, and fewer luxury items. The society was more agrarian, with focus on self-sufficiency. Despite the absence of monumental construction, Troy's strategic location still allowed it to play a role in a regional trade, though on a much smaller scale. People rebuilt their homes, cultivated the land, and maintained their foothold in the region. The absence of wealth and grandeur during these phases should not be mistaken for insignificance. These centuries were about survival. By the 1750 BCE, Troy VI marked the start of a golden age. Massive stone fortifications were constructed, both to ward off enemies and withstand natural disasters like earthquakes. The city expanded beyond its earlier boundaries, and new districts were built to accommodate a growing population. This Troy was a thriving trade center, controlling vital routes between Asia and Europe. Its strategic position along key maritime and overland trade routes made it a nexus for cultural exchange, attracting traders, artisans, and travelers from distant lands. Archaeological evidence, fine pottery, large homes, bronze weapons, speaks of wealth and sophistication. The pottery styles from Troy 6 indicate influence from both Anatolian and Aegean cultures, suggesting that Troy was an important player in regional trade networks. Public buildings suggest a structured society with leaders who managed its prosperity and defense. Basically, the big fancy houses tell us there was a big boss class that controlled everything. But around 1250 BCE, a devastating earthquake struck, collapsing walls and destroying much of the city. The earthquake was a significant setback, but it did not end Troy. The people of Troy showed remarkable resilience, repairing the damage and continuing their lives amidst the ruins. Troy 7a emerged from the rubble of Troy 6 around 1250 BCE and is often linked to the fabled Trojan War. The city was densely populated, the tightly packed houses, many with storage jars buried beneath the floors, indicate that the people of Troy were preparing for a prolonged siege. This is the period most commonly associated with the epic tales of Trojan War, where the city faced a coalition of Greek forces. In this brief window of time, the entire Iliad unfolds. Helen's love for Paris, Menelaus' fury, the rage of Achilles, and the cunning Trojan horse. All of it just a fleeting moment in the vast Trojan history. Archaeological signs of destruction, arrowheads, charred ruins, suggest a violent end around 1180 BCE, probably echoing the epic siege told by Homer. The scale of destruction points to a warfare, but whether the attackers were Greek or another group remains a matter of debate. The story of a wooden horse, a cunning trick that led to the city's fall, may be more legend than a fact, but the evidence on conflict is unmistakable. The following phase, Troy 7b, saw a small, struggling community rise from these ruins. New cultural influences and a mix of populations hinted at a city adapting and changing, but lacking the power and prosperity of earlier Troys. The people of Troy 7b were survivors, piecing together a life amidst the ruins of what used to be a grand city. They rebuilt using available materials, and their pottery show influences from new settlers who arrived after the destruction. It was a period of survival and resilience, as the once mighty city struggled to stay afloat until around 950 BCE. With the onset of Troy 8, around 950 BCE, Troy entered a new era under Greek influence. The Greeks saw Troy not just as a city, but as a symbol of heritage and myth. To the Greeks, Troy was a tangible link to the stories of gods and heroes, a place where mythology met reality. Temples were built, including one dedicated to Athena, and Troy became a place of pilgrimage and reverence. Alexander the Great's visit in 334 BCE marked Troy as a revered historical site, where he paid homage to Achilles and other heroes of the Trojan War. His visit brought renewed interest to the city, and it became an important symbol of Greek cultural heritage. Under Roman rule, Troy IX, known as Ilium, flourished. The Romans, claiming descent from the Trojan hero Aeneas, invested heavily in Troy, constructing monuments, theaters, and public spaces. Augustus himself supported the city's revival, connecting Rome's origins to Troy's legendary past. The city was adorned with Roman architecture, and it became a thriving colony that celebrated its mythical connection to Rome. Festivals were held to honor the Trojan ancestors, and Troy became a symbol of Roman pride and continuity. However, by the 4th century CE, as the Roman Empire's focus shifted to Constantinople, Troy began to decline. The city faded, but its ruins remained. Troy's story is one of resilience and endurance. These ruins are more than stones. They were once the lives of people like us, part of a larger story. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe for more tales of ambition, struggle, and history's echoes. Let's keep these legends alive.